Hey y'all, it's Mercy here with Dustin Doyle of Ernie Haas's Signature Sound.
Hey everybody.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I live in West Tennessee. I have a wife and 3 kids. My newest one was just born 3 weeks ago, so we're really excited about that. And I have a 4-year-old boy and a girl who's about to turn 3. They are incredible. They have changed my life in the most awesome and stressful way ever. Aside from music and, pursuing music as an art and as a craft with songwriting and playing instruments and, that type of thing. And also, just doing concerts with the guys. My favorite thing is to just be at home and just be a husband and a dad. Which, is not necessarily something years ago that I would have thought would have been so important to me or so special to me. But the more moments that I get to have with my kids, the more that I want. And so that's me in a nutshell, I guess. And if you want to go back farther, I grew up a pastor's kid, and father's still pastoring a great Christian home. Not everything that I was taught took right away, and so I spent a few years really straying away from the Lord and really pursuing my own fleshly desires, but had a real prodigal son moment when I was about 25, and really made a change and turned back and really started experiencing more of what a relationship with God was like, as opposed to sort of viewing God as this supreme being on a throne that's untouchable and is just waiting for you to mess up and punish you for your sin and that kind of thing. And that's sort of through no fault of anybody's, that was just sort of my perception of God until I actually had a relationship. And so let's just say that part first, and then the first part last, and then that's sort of my story in a nutshell.
When did you get saved?
I got saved when I was 10. Now, like I said earlier, I do believe that I got saved when I was 10, but I just lived very prodigally. And I've never ever struggled with believing that God was real. Never struggled with my faith. I always believed that Jesus was exactly who he said he was, and that God and the Trinity, all of that is everything that it's ever claimed to be. I've never had a struggle with that. My struggle was just the connection, feeling like I actually mattered, feeling like I had a real purpose. I believed in a creator, but I just couldn't figure out why that creator would have any use for me whatsoever. So I did put my faith in Jesus and all of that when I was 10 years old. Absolutely believe that. But through just years of poor decisions and sort of being beat down by several different things and struggling with hanging on to guilt and shame for decisions that you've made. I just don't really feel like I knew what having a relationship with Jesus was like until I was around 25. So I do believe I got saved when I was 10, and I will always say that. But I know from 25 that it was absolutely real. There is no question. There's nothing, and I don't even have to go back, because whether it happened when I was 10 or when I was 25, it really doesn't matter. But again, to answer your question, I do believe I got saved when I was 10. Just walked away and came back.
How did you get involved in Southern gospel music?
I was actually raised with Southern gospel music. Parents listened to it. My brother also sang professionally for a few years with Perfect Heart in the late 90s. So I was around the industry a little bit during that time as a young kid. I think I was 13 when when Perfect Heart disbanded. And so then when I went to college at Bethel University, in 2006, a couple years after I joined this performing arts program, they hired Matthew Holt, piano player for Gaither, and he started a quartet as part of this performing arts program. And so I was asked to be in that quartet. And so it was just me and a couple people from the choir, and we put together this quartet, and we ended up having a little bit of notoriety with it, I guess, as far as the university was concerned. It was one of the main sources of promotion for recruiting students. And not only that, but then we came to NQC in 2009 and did the quartet talent show and won that and got to sing on the main stage, which was just such a big deal for all of us. And so then with that relationship with Matthew, I would always go to him with questions of, what potential jobs were out there, because everybody's got all the inside info. It's, everybody knows everything in this industry basically. And so he kind of helped me out, and then, when the opportunity to be on the Ashes came before Signature Sound, he was sort of the guy I went to and was like, "Do you think this is a good move for me?" And he was like, "Yeah, I think this might be what you're looking for right now." And then through Beyond the Ashes, met Ernie because we were Stotonomist. And so, it's really cool to look back and just see each place that you ended up, where God has directed your steps to where I am today. So it's just really cool to be sitting here with you today, knowing that me being here, God directed all of my steps to put me here, and it's a comforting thing to know that, to trust that God really is faithful. He really does have your back, and will give you the desires of your heart. And it was a desire of my heart to do this for a living, and He's granted us that. So very blessed.
What is your favorite song to sing?
My favorite song to sing with the group is actually not one of my songs. It is Walking Through Fire. It's a new one on our new project, Clear Skies, and it's actually one that Devin co-wrote with Lee Black and Sue C. Smith. And it is a song that's relatable to everybody. If you've ever been through anything in your life that was difficult, you can relate to this song. And then the song not only addressing the fact that we are going to be walking through fire our entire time on earth, which will be interrupted by moments of where everything is good. We have examples that we can look back in the Bible and see these terrible situations that seemed hopeless, and yet God showed up and spoke, and everything was fine. Like that, it's the idea that whatever you're going through, whatever fire you're walking through, it's temporary, and if you'll just hang on, and persevere and keep your faith. We're just watching the effects of this song happen during concerts and seeing people get it and come to some sort of maybe an understanding of where they are, and then they'll come and tell us about that later. And I've just never been more proud of a message that I sing than I am of that song. And just super proud of Devin for helping write such a great song, because I really think it's going to be one of our bigger songs in the way of life change. I really do. And I'm excited to see the potential of that.
Who are some of your Southern gospel heroes?
Well, growing up, when I say I grew up on Southern gospel music, we actually didn't listen to a lot of groups. My parents were really picky. And so we had the Cathedrals, the vocal band, and the Imperials. That's what we grew up with. And so, Gold City. Gold City also made the cut. And so, growing up on all these just incredible singers, you've got these amazing tenors like like Ernie and David and Wes. And then you got these great leads, like Michael and Guy Penrod and Russ Taff, when he was with the Imperials, and just these vocal monsters, just these killer singers that most people in the world don't know because most people don't listen to gospel music. But you've got these mega stars that musically, I don't get it. Why? What's the draw there? And then you've got these other singers that are seriously the best singers on the planet that most people will never have the privilege of hearing. These were some of my Southern gospel heroes. George and Glenn, just as people and as examples, absolutely. And I've just got a ton of people that I still look up to, for different reasons. I've got the guys that I think are really awesome singers, and then I've got the guys that I go to for advice, and then the people who have so much wisdom in this industry that have been in it for so long. People like Mark Trammell or Gerald Wolfe, have thankfully have had the opportunity to become friends with these people. The Booth brothers, Ronnie and Michael, are just some of the greatest people on the planet, and there are a couple more here. I could do this all day. Just talk about the people in the industry that have an effect on me and have sewn into me in some way, and how much I appreciate that. When a lot of people don't know this, when I got hired with Ernie, Wes Hampton was the very first person, when it was made publicly, Wes Hampton was the first person to reach out to me and congratulate me. And he didn't owe me that. That did nothing for him. And there are just some really, really great guys that really have each other's back in this industry. So I got a lot of heroes in Southern Gospel, I really do.
What is the most useless talent you have?
Well, I can't say it's useless. That's actually kind of quite handy. I can solve a Rubik's Cube pretty quickly. A couple minutes, maybe, tops. But that does nobody any good, so that's pretty useless. But I do like that kind of stuff. Puzzle stuff. I have a thing with memorizing numbers. If I see a number, even a long number for just a few seconds, just enough for kind of the picture to get in my head, I'll never forget that number. But that's actually kind of useful. So I still remember people's phone numbers. Everybody was like, "We don't remember phone numbers anymore. Just put them on our phones and we'll never see it again." And if I see the number for 5 to 10 seconds, I'll never forget it. So that's another thing. Birthdays. I never forget people's birthdays either. Like once it's acknowledged, it just never leaves. But that's pretty useful too, so. Yeah, the Rubik's Cube thing, that doesn't really do anybody any good, so that's pretty useless.
If you could meet one person in the past or present, who would it be?
In the past or present? We're talking non-biblical? Okay. Probably Frank Sinatra. I would just love to sit down and talk music with Frank Sinatra and actually understand his musical brain more so than just his awesome voice that he gave to us for so many years. Because a lot of those guys, older crooner guys, were more multi-talented really than they were showcased. And there's a lot of them that were really talented musicians and composers and all this stuff. But Frank is just kind of a mystery to me. Other than just sort of seeing him read a piece of sheet music every once in a while, I never knew, I still don't know, maybe I just haven't done research as to whether or not he played any instruments or what his actual creative process was. And I just love his singing so much that I would love to have a conversation with Frank Sinatra.
What do you like to do in your free time?
Honestly, What free time? I have a lot of time at home. I wouldn't call it free time. But if I ever do just kind of get the chance to just sort of get out, I'm pretty boring. I'm pretty simple. Go out, maybe, sit down at a quiet restaurant and just have a conversation. I do love to talk to people. I love to hear people's stories and insights into things, and even people that think completely differently, opposite from me. I like hearing, because I like to see what drives people, and what put that person there to feel that way about this and that. And so I still love, I've been married for 7 years. I still love just going out to eat with my wife and just having a conversation and trying not to talk about the kids. Honestly, it's hard to do. Once you have kids, it's like, what did we do before we had kids? But I think it's important to continue to get to know your spouse. And I think a lot of times once people are married for a certain amount of time, they think, I know everything there is to know about that person. No, you don't. Because I'm not the same person that I was when I was 25. I'm 33 now. I'm not going to think exactly the same about everything when I'm 38, 40, and I feel like it's important to continue to keep that line of communication open. And so I just really love just going out and just talking with my wife. I really do. I know it sounds boring, but, I wish I could do it more often. And especially with kids, and don't get me wrong, I love playing with the kids, but when you make the kids a priority over your spouse, that can cause a lot of problems. So we try to be very careful with that, but just hanging out with my kids and hanging out with my wife, I'm perfectly content. Love it.
What is your favorite book of the Bible?
James. I really love all of it. I feel like that's one of the more, I guess if you were to tell somebody, maybe like a non-believer or maybe a baby Christian, I want to read the Bible, but I don't really know where to start. Aside from the Gospels and just reading exactly who Jesus was, who he said he was, and how he says to live. After that, and you really come to an understanding of who and what Jesus is, and you've been saved. I feel like James is a really good book to start at. I feel like it covers a lot of different ground as far as sin and prayer and just basic day-to-day living, what to ask God for. Faith without works is dead, and it really shows you that. And my favorite verse comes from James in chapter 5, which is simply Elijah was a man with a nature like ours. That's it. And then it goes into his prayer life, and that he prayed it would not rain on the earth for this amount of days, and it did, or it didn't. And then he prayed it would, and it did. But he was a man with a nature just like me, which means he was just as susceptible to temptation and sin as I am. And if God can use somebody like me with a nature like mine to accomplish the things that Elijah accomplished for God, he lived so closely to the Lord that God didn't even make him die. He just took him to heaven as he was. And he was a guy just like me. And so it's encouraging to me because all of your biblical heroes all screwed up big at some point other than Jesus. And so it's comforting and it's encouraging to read these things about these people who screwed up, and yet God used in such a big way, and I don't have to live under the oppression of my shame or guilt for past decisions, because God can use me to do things just as big, and that keeps me going.
And lastly, what would your life theme song be?
My life theme song. My life theme song. It changes. It changes depending on what season I'm in. And right now, I'm going to have to go back to Walking Through Fire because I've walked through a lot. I've been through a lot of things. And I can honestly say it has been because of the decisions I've made. I take full responsibility for any hardship that I've had to go through based on the decisions that I've made. However, God has also been extremely faithful and patient. And that grace and that patience and that kindness is what turned me around. Well, that's biblical. His kindness leads us to repentance. And so, Walking Through Fire is just one that I relate to so much, and it's just jam-packed with reminders of His faithfulness. And, my favorite line of the whole song is, because the song is basically kind of a list of different things that Jesus is. I don't know if you've listened to it or not, but, He's the this, He's the this. And He's the... He's the love and grace that would bear your cross, and the story of redemption that you tell. That the first time I heard that, it was the work tape. I just started bawling at that line because I would love to be able to take credit for being in the position that I'm in today and saying that, it was a product of, years of hard work and laboring. Oh, no, that's not true. I'm here because God hasn't taken me out yet. And I have given Him plenty of opportunities to do that. I've put myself in situations that I just should not have. And yet He is the story of redemption that I tell. I cannot say anything within myself. I know what myself will end up in without the Lord. And so that is, I would say that is an anthem for me right now. Now, if we're talking secular, there is another song that I'm just going to drop. Have you had the opportunity to see The Greatest Showman? Yes. All right. A Million Dreams is my anthem. It is seriously everything about that, down to just from the idea of even being a kid, not feeling like I saw things like the way everybody else did. And I felt like I heard music differently than other people did. And I just... just watching that whole process, and then into his, starting a family and that whole thing. Like, it just, every word of that song resonates with me. If you haven't had the opportunity to see that movie or hear that soundtrack, you're missing out. It's unbelievable. Shameless plug for something I'm not involved in. Songs just mean so much to me personally. Every song that I like, I don't like just because the music's cool. Like, it has to mean something to me. And so I could probably tell you a lot of songs that have changed maybe my perspective on something, or something that has helped me grow in a certain area. But right now, Walking Through Fire is so encouraging to me, because it's easy for me to get stressed out. You just have, and all of us, everybody has a lot on their plate. We just live in such a busy world and a busy time, and everybody's just so busy. So it just, I don't know, just sitting back and just trusting and knowing that no matter what I'm walking through, God said He would never leave me and He would never forsake me. He has never, David said, I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his children begging for bread. And I know as long as I do what I'm supposed to do, God will supply my needs. The only problem with that, I feel like, in today's society is we want more than our needs. We're not satisfied with just our needs. We want other stuff. But that's all a product of thinking finitely, overthinking eternally, and really getting perspective on what's important. So I know as long as I do what I'm supposed to do, God's going to take care of me and my family, no matter what I'm walking through. And I have countless stories and examples in the Bible to draw from that I know are true, to help maintain that encouragement. So,
Thank you for doing this.
you bet.